Coach Fry had us take the decals off the helmets to pay homage to those victims that were lost during that shooting, to go there for a night game. And my family was in the house. I know they love the Buckeyes. And the fact, and no one gave us a chance to win that game.
No.
To go in there and get that win was one of the most rewarding, exhilarating, satisfying wins that I've ever had in college. To see Alan Cross take that touchdown 60 something yards and to see the plays that everybody made in all facets of the game. To beat Ohio State in Columbus, my grandmother was in the crowd and was rooting for Ohio State. She's like, baby, listen, I love you to death, but I want you to play well. I just want Ohio State to win the game. Christmas, she'd send me Ohio State clocks and she cut out the press clippings in the newspaper and send them to me in the mail. I'm like, Grandma, I understand. I don't like Ohio State anymore. And so it was just funny to know that she was at the game. And even though her grandbaby was playing, she still wanted Ohio State to win.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
All right, we are excited to have Cliff King, former fullback from the University of Iowa, 1989 to 1993. Cliff, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Let's do a quick run through of where you're from and how you got going into sports and football in general.
I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. I was born and raised in Columbus. Actually grew up an Ohio State fan. I know that sounds like blasphemy because I ended up going to Iowa, but I grew up an Ohio State fan, Archie Griffin fan. I wore number 45 because of Archie Griffin. That was one of the first jerseys that I got. Both of my grandparents actually worked at Ohio State, so it was just in the blood. My grandfather was a professor there, a psychology professor, and my grandmother was actually a secretary for Jesse Owens. So, like, they're diehard
Um,
Buckeyes, obviously. But yeah, stayed there until I was about 12 years old. Then I moved to Florida, and I was in Florida for from age 12 to about 14, and then ended up moving up to Chicago, a suburb of Chicago, Buffalo Grove, and I was there from middle of my eighth grade year all the way through high school. And that's when I actually found out about Iowa. There was a big offensive lineman who was, I believe, a senior when I was a freshman, and he ended up going to Iowa. That's how Iowa got on my radar. And then I ended up taking a visit there and meeting Coach Elliott and ended up getting offered an opportunity to walk on. And that's how I came to Iowa. I wanted to go somewhere that was close enough where my dad and family could drive to my games. And it was like everything within the Big Ten seemed to be like a 3 hour drive, 3 hours to Iowa from Chicago, but like everything else seemed to be accessible. So whether it was Illinois or Purdue or Indiana or whatever, went, saw the campus, fell in love with it, got offered an opportunity to be a walk on, and that's how I ended up at Iowa.
Nice. And where else were you looking at schools wise? Was Iowa the only one, or did you look at a bunch of other places?
I had an offer from Northern Illinois, Cal State, Fullerton, I believe it was, and then I had visited UCLA. Fell in love with that campus too, but it was a little far. But Iowa just seemed to be the perfect fit, and I'm glad I made that decision because all those relationships that I formed from 1989 through 94 when I graduated, I'm still connected to quite a few teammates, and I love that.
Yeah, it is a special atmosphere, right? At Iowa and the kind of long-term friendships that you make, you being one of them for us. Why don't we talk about, you've been successful, I think, through playing college football and in the professional world. What kind of things like helped you be successful at every level like that? Is there things that kind of go back to when you were a kid? Did you see this guy that was an offensive lineman and say, "Oh, I can make this"? Or talk about that part of it if you would.
It's interesting. Like I'd say it goes back to my grandparents in the family. Like my grandfather had his own construction company called Godfrey Brothers Construction. My grandmother was a secretary, but she also read the announcements at church, and she was just a grinder. Like she took the bus in Columbus, Ohio, all the way up until she was 86 years old. She would take the bus in the mornings to go to work. And so both of their work ethic and grind just was something that impressed upon me. And then I obviously saw my parents as well. but I think it was the grandparents. And my grandmother taught me about the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated from a young age. So I think that work ethic and those messages and being raised in the church, my grandmother and my mom and everybody impressed upon us that it was important to go to church as well. So I think all the morals and the values and everything from watching them growing up and being raised by them is what kind of carried me through life, so to speak, which has allowed me to be somewhat successful in life.
Somewhat, come on. Yeah. Everybody's so modest on these things. We get on. I think I remember Matt Sherman was talking. He's like, I did all right my senior year and junior year of high school. And I was like, I think you led the state. What do you like? How did you almost make me fall for that? But it's funny to hear the modesty of the guys that come through and the signature of the program. I guess that's probably some of the Hayden Fry things and some of those deals. So as you're getting recruited to Iowa, who is the coach you were connected with?
I was connected with Coach Elliott. Coach Elliott was the one that was reaching out to me and calling me, and that's when I came to take an unofficial visit to campus. He's the one that hosted me. He's the one that would write the letters and cards to me. So was Coach Elliott. It was the one that kind of brought me on. Then when I got there, obviously it was Coach Jackson, who was the running back coach at the time. And I had three running back coaches during my tenure there. It was obviously started off with Coach Jackson, and then we had Coach Hargrave, and then we had Coach Triplett. Obviously, I was a fullback. Came there thinking I could be a running back, but then I'm like, okay, this running back room, a lot of talent over here from the Mike Saunders and the Nick Bells and the Marvin Lampkins and Ryan Terry. So I ended up becoming a fullback, and that's what I played. Walked on and ended up earning a scholarship a few years later and ended up becoming a starter my senior year, which was, look, my junior. I played special teams all 4 years, but really got a chance to get some playing time my junior season and then ended up starting my senior season in '93.
So let's talk about the transition into Iowa City. Coming from Chicago, it's relatively the same, at least the same area of the country and the same kind of mind frame for a lot of people. How was that transition, and was that a tough one, or was that something that you went pretty easily for you, or how was that?
I actually loved it. Look, I really hadn't been to too many college towns. I'd visited some college towns, but like I fell in love with Iowa City. I fell in love with Slater in the dorm. I loved the fact that we were all on the same floor and there were multiple floors. So I love the fact that we could go up a floor, down a floor to go visit teammates. And it was like it was a sports dorm, obviously, but there was like so many football players in there that you had your buddies. You could take a CAM bus or take a scooter to go downtown to go out to restaurants or bars or to the mall. So I loved Iowa. I fell in love with Iowa City, and the field house was right across the street. We could go play pickup basketball. I loved the fact that the facility was super close. So I loved exactly where we were positioned at Slater. I think I stayed there 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think the last 2 years I moved off campus to an apartment off of Mormon Trek for a couple years with Marvin Lampkin and Lou Montgomery. And then I lived with James Winters across from Burge 1 year. And I can't remember the last year, but yeah, I loved Iowa City.
Yeah, it's a great spot to go to school in, or at least it seemed that way from what it was. Why don't you talk a little bit more about rooming with James Winters? Was that a good experience as far as learning like what another sport does and that interaction?
Absolutely. Look, we all felt as football players that we could have played basketball as well. And we did formulate our own intramural basketball team franchise, and we were pretty good. We kept winning the title, the championship year in and year out. But we would play with the basketball guys, so developed a relationship with James from just playing pickup ball and hanging out in the gym. He was actually roommates with Chris Street before Chris Street passed away in that car accident, and then I moved in and became his roommate after Chris Street passed away. So we just formed a good relationship from playing basketball together and then hanging out and in and around Iowa City together. We would be in bars or restaurants and just have a good time. And then we became roommates and we became even closer. No, he was a really good dude. It was good to see how other student athletes, how their experience was at Iowa, but he ended up becoming a good friend. We ended up getting into the same field, actually. We were both in the pharmaceutical industry for a while after we left Iowa, and we're connected. Yeah, good dude, and I had a couple of good years with him.
Why don't you walk us through showing up to practice as a freshman and as a walk-on, and then lead into when you first got your playing time?
Look, coming to Iowa, it was eye-opening. As a walk-on, you're the bottom of the totem pole and you're competing against all these different high star athletes, elite athletes that have come on full rides. So you got to just find your lane and just go to work. Before we even started this, it was a rude awakening with the shuttle because I didn't know exactly what that entailed, but that conditioning test really jumped on you pretty quickly. And I remember, I'm sure you guys had to run that as well, but like that
Oh yeah. I
was something I'm like, oh shit, this is a different level. I didn't have to do this in high school.
feel like they
Oh,
didn't tell me as a walk-on either. I feel like they left that out. Like they told all the scholarship guys, but they're like, oh, we didn't even bother telling the walk-ons. And I
that's what
showed
it felt
up.
like.
What the hell is this?
Exactly. So that was eye-opening, but then it was just going out and competing. And I think Coach Jackson was the perfect coach at that time when I came in to just break everything down for you, lay out his expectations and what you've got to do to earn your keep around here and get on the field and how you're going to compete. I was obviously on scout team my first 2 or 3 years. So just going up against the Brad Quass and the John Derbies and all these stud linebackers and safeties and the Merton Hankses and all these big D linemen that were just all studs. I went and took my lumps down there and just tried to give a good look. That's how I felt like I contributed. I was able to get a couple scout team players of the weeks, which I felt like I was contributing to the success of our team by giving them a good look of whoever it was we were playing that week, whether I was playing at running back, whether I was playing at fullback, or wherever they would spread me around. I felt like I took pride in giving our starting defense a good look. And then just through that process, you learn how to play the game and get toughened up and you just keep grinding and keep stacking good days on top of good days. And eventually you get recognized on special teams and you just keep grinding and eventually you get a chance to earn an opportunity to play. And it's not like that anymore with this whole transfer portal. But back then it was get in, pay your dues, make a name for yourself on special teams. I loved running down with John Hartley and Burt Richardson, the crusher, and trying to make plays on kickoff coverage. But I was on every special team. I took pride in that. I enjoyed it. And I also took pride in the scout team. And then we'd have our hawk hitters on Friday, which were our scrimmages, which were fun to try to get some recognitions. That's the way it happened. From true freshman year all the way up until my senior year.
We talked to Scott Yoder, who had somewhat a similar journey of just putting in really long-term work to get to play and to become a starter or get on the field. And so I think there's just an elite level resilience there that you see this path that's like way down the line and you're just, like you said, stacking up good days on top of good days. And so I think it's a commendable thing to have that kind of goal and to work towards it and to not see your goal for a long time. I guess it's a hard thing for people to do. I think that's really should be commended. Let's talk about when you got on the field.
Yeah. Okay, let me take myself back. When I got on the field, I was just excited, man. I was just excited to be named a starter and to be able to play an entire game. Like I've been working hard and looking forward to that moment. And to get a win like that or to get carries or to get in the end zone and to have your parents come to the game and see you actually out there beyond special teams, I was just proud. I was just proud to be able to go out there and try to contribute to Hawk wins. And then playing in that environment at Kinnick, man, it was just like made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Special teams got you used to being in that environment in the crowd and everything. But when you're actually out there playing every down, there's nothing better, man. So it was just like something that I feel like it took so long to get to that point. But once you got there, you were just proud and just wanted to soak in every moment and just try to live in the moment as well, actually, during those times. Because I was a fullback, right? I didn't think I was going to end up being a first round draft pick. So it just felt like my senior year. I felt like this could be my last year of football. So I just wanted to take it all in and just make sure I enjoyed every moment of it and just played as hard as I could.
As you talked about that, I guess that's probably an interesting feeling to get to a point where you're like, actually, this is normal to be out in front of that many people. Right? I think Brian and I were in 3 or 4 plays a game. So every play was, you're out there, this is a specific thing. Whereas like, if you were in the rhythm of the game, it's probably a much different feel to be like, okay, this is just normal for me to be in front of this many people and kind of playing 60, 70 plays a game, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's exhilarating. And I'm nervous now because I have a son that's now playing. And I think about the fact that here it's August 29th and the college football season has just started, and they play tomorrow night. And so he plays at Cal Berkeley, and they play at Corvallis tomorrow night under the lights. And I'm nervous because I feel like I'm playing in the game. He's prepared for this moment. He was on the field last year in spot duty a little bit, but like now he's going to be playing some more meaningful snaps tomorrow night under the lights in the state where he grew up. It's going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to see how he responds, honestly.
Yeah, we're excited to see him get a chance to play. As long as you're going that direction, let's talk about, your son and what you learned and how you prepared him for this moment, and kind of what you would say or what you would walk him through to prepare him for this.
That's a good question. I feel like it wasn't just me. I helped coach him. We got him into flag football when he was like 5, 6 years old. Then he started playing tackle at 8. And that's when I started helping coach. So I coached him from 3rd grade through 8th grade. And then the high school coaches took over after that. But I'd say it was like all of the uncles that he's had, which are all former Hawks that have been around since he was born, whether it's the Harold Jaspers or the Michael Titleys or the Danon Hugheses or the Larry Blues. Like all these guys were around as he was a baby. So when he was 3, 4, 5 years old, we're in the house and they're throwing footballs at him as hard as they can and making him catch them. And I feel like it was like he would watch old videos and highlights of us. So he's been around the game his entire life and had been around a bunch of Hawks his entire life. So I don't feel like there was any other option except to go play football just because he was around it. We took him to his first game in Kinnick when he was like 2 years old. So he was around the game, developed a passion for it, had all these uncles that were teaching him different things along the way, even when he was like 3rd grade football, 8th grade football, high school. He was a receiver. I wasn't a receiver, but Danon was a receiver. Mike Saunders was a receiver. Harold Jasper was a receiver. So they could basically pour into him about different things about how to be better at your craft. And so I feel like it was a combination of literally the village helping raise this young man into giving him the confidence to be able to become a football player at a high level.
Yeah, that's interesting to break those things down, right? Where all the knowledge and all the support comes from. We've seen a lot of different stories about how people got to where they were. People even talk about their tutors, Barb and Vicky and people like that. They're on the edges of these things that are really hold this all together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was curious if were there times where you're like, I don't know if I should keep doing this. I can't afford school and doing football, questioning whether you want to stick with it, or were you like, I'm going to ride this out as long as I can, as long as they keep me on the team. I'm going to try to make it all 4 or 5 years. How did that go?
That's a good question, Brian. I did feel like it was a little bit of a strain on my parents to have to pay for college. So I didn't think about I'm going to just leave. I was just trying to think I got to work as hard as I can to try to earn a scholarship as quickly as possible so I can not be a burden or a drain on them. So my mindset was just come out and just grind as hard as you can. Hopefully you get recognized and hopefully they reward you for your efforts and for what you bring to the organization or to the program. That was my mindset, but it was always like, yeah, I'm in this for the long haul.
When did you actually get your scholarship then?
So after my redshirt freshman year, so going to the 91 season.
Okay.
So it's like my parents paid for the first 2 years, and then I was on scholarship the last 3 years, basically.
Nice.
It's good to go to training tape, get proper meals and all that stuff. It's funny, that's what we looked at as something important. And now today's landscape, it's like how many millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars are these kids going to make? It's like the education and training table used to be something that was such a carrot that was like that you looked to get. And now it's just like it's changed so much now.
We were talking to Epinesa and he said, yeah, when he got to go to training table, that was like how people found out people went on scholarship. You just showed up at training table. They're like, oh my God, you got a scholarship. Like today, it's like this big celebration, but back then that was how the word got out. You just kind of, hey, where'd you come from?
Exactly. But those were proud moments, man.
I feel it's like those little Streif packets with the $20 for the weekend too, where you're like, you were budgeting that, right? That was all spent before that even showed up. You're like,
that per diem, legibly please in the per diem. Wait, you guys got 20? Because we only got 10. So if you guys got 20, you guys were rolling, man. We got $10 every week with Streif, and we had to sign that envelope, legibly please, to accept that $10.
Maybe it was 10. Maybe my memory is bad. It was enough that it was like, wait, this shouldn't be that big of a deal to get this every week. But a funny mindset for that age.
I had a question about the 91 season. So you guys roll up into Columbus. Can you talk about that experience now that I know your background and growing up there?
That was awesome. That was awesome. I mean, obviously, there was the tragedy on campus,
Right.
so that was sad. But just like that moment and just going there to play for our fans and the fact that Coach Fry had us take the decals off the helmets to pay homage to those victims that were lost during that shooting, and then to go there for a night game, and my family was in the house, and I know they love the Buckeyes, and the fact, and no one gave us a chance to win that game.
No.
And then just like to go in there and get that win was one of the most rewarding, exhilarating, satisfying wins that I've ever had in college. To see Alan Cross take that touchdown 60 something yards and to see the plays that everybody made during that game in all facets of the game. To beat Ohio State in Columbus in a night game, and they're always loaded. They're always stacked with 4 and 5 star recruits. Anytime you can do that, that's a big feat. And then to do it that weekend after that horrible tragedy that happened, it was good just to be able to come back to Iowa City after that, getting that big win. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's rare. I don't, it's probably a handful of times I was won in Columbus. It's so
Exactly.
difficult.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think we did the exercise once of taking all the guys that had gone to the NFL and putting them on the teams. And so it was like Robert Smith and Eddie George would have been in the backfield together, like just some ridiculous players that had left. Like half the team had gone, but they were just as good or better than who was there. So it was like, wow, we'd have really been in trouble if half the guys hadn't opted
Left
out.
early.
Exactly.
Left early their sophomore year, whatever they did.
Exactly.
It's an interesting mindset too to just see that level of talent and be like, okay, you've got to go in and believe that you can win, to believe you can do that and overcome these odds. That's an interesting thought too, right? Of just how you get your head around that.
Not just overcome like yourself, like self-belief that you can believe you can do it. Like my grandmother was in the crowd and my grandmother was rooting for Ohio State. She's like, baby, listen, I love you to death, but I want you to play. I just want Ohio State to win the game. And she just wouldn't, she would never let it go. For Christmas, she'd send me Ohio State clocks and she cut out the press clippings in the newspaper and send them to me in the mail. Hey, baby, look how good Ohio State's doing. I'm like, Grandma, I understand. I don't like Ohio State anymore, but she wanted me to know that they were still having good seasons. And so it was just funny to know that she was at the game. And even though her grandbaby was playing, she still wanted Ohio State to win. So yeah, you had to overcome that as well. So
You didn't get any walk-on offers from them?
no, because I left when I was 12. So I ended up going to high school outside of the Chicagoland area. So I was way off their radar.
You're like, you made it to Florida. You're like, yes. And then we're back to Chicago. And you're like, oh, wait, come on. What are we doing here?
Exactly.
It's windy. It's cold. Come on. This isn't fun.
Exactly.
Let's go into any Coach Fry memories you have.
Or any other coaches? Yeah.
For me, with all the coaches, it was just like basically a lot of the sayings. Coach Fry, walk softly and carry a big stick, and his motivational tactics in meetings. Coach Jackson, just every time we go into the training table room or any room where we're getting ready to have dinner, get your cap. I just remember all the different sayings that they all had. I really liked Coach Ferentz when I was there. When I was a true freshman, Coach Ferentz was the offensive line coach. I remember having him around when I was on scout team for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I feel like he was one of my favorite coaches back in the day. And I'm not sure what it is specifically that he said, but I just remember that I really connected with him when I was there as a walk-on. When you're a walk-on, you feel like you can be kind of lost at times, but I feel like I was a part of the team. I feel like they made me feel a part of the team. Coach Ferentz for sure. But outside of that, Coach Jackson, Coach Hargrave, Coach Triplett, they all basically gave me a fair chance to prove what I could do and then ultimately get on the field.
Were those coaching styles relatively similar? I'm sure there's like similarities across the board, but were they similar or were they really like wildly different?
That's a good question. I feel like Coach Jackson was probably the most stern, where he'd chew you out the most. I think it's funny the way that he would chew you out too. I made a wrong read one time, and he's like, "God dang it, Clifton, where'd you bring that from? Buffalo Grove with you?" He just chewed you out and just in a way that he didn't necessarily cuss at you. He would just ask you, make you feel like this big by saying, "Where'd you bring that shit from? You brought that from Buffalo Grove?" It was just like a funny story that Paul Burmeister and Jimmy Hartley even enough would laugh at, and Cooge we laugh at the way that he would yell at you. I think that I'd say he was probably the most stern of the running back coaches. And I think that Coach Hargrave and Coach Triplett's style was a little bit different, but still effective. Still were able to give you enough to teach you how to be good at what you did. So I just think the styles are a little bit different.
I had this sentiment as a walk-on as well. People don't know. I think it was running backs, fullbacks, and specialists because we had Coach Triplett. It was cool because, yeah, I was a walk-on, but I felt like part of the team, and you guys all embraced us, even though we're specialists, we're a little weird. You guys all embraced us and treat us like part of the team and didn't give us too much crap. You don't feel like you're fighting that battle too. You just go in and it's like, all right, we're all in this together. If you can help, great. You can contribute, whatever. Whoever can step up, that's what we need. So I think that really helps. You have a welcoming environment for walk-ons, which Iowa's program is well known for because there's a lot of great athletes get overlooked.
Absolutely. And I think that's a part of the culture that Coach Fry and all the other coaches established. We're all a family. We're all here as a team. And you should never turn your nose down to anyone, whether they're a walk-on or whether they're a five-star scholarship guy. Everyone's the same. Everyone puts their pants on the same way every day. Everyone is out here to achieve a common goal. So I think that's the culture that they established, that we all just say, yeah, these are our brothers. We go to war with them every day in practice, on games, on shakeout runs. We're together with these guys nonstop. So these are our brothers, and that's how we're going to treat them. I felt that from day one.
That's a great environment, right? When you do have that. Those guys were weird. I don't think I was weird, but maybe.
You're trying not to be weird.
I was trying not to be weird. I'm like, I don't know. What am I doing here? Why do they got me here?
I'm a tight end.
I got the helmet that's got like the 6 bars coming across. Like my head's like this big. I'm like, what am I punting the ball for?
We eventually made you into a full specialist. Yeah.
Well, his head's this big. Nick was one of the bigger specialists I've ever seen. But then, like, I met his brother. I'm like, holy cow, who is this guy? This is probably when Robert, I don't know if he was in high school or if he was in 8th grade or what the heck grade he was in, but didn't he come to a game? And I think I met him. I'm not sure how old he was. How old was he back then? In 94, 93.
12.
5 years younger than I am. So he probably would have been 13. He'd been junior high-ish, I think.
And he still was a pretty big 12, 13-year-old, I'm assuming.
He's
Tall
tall.
and skinny, yeah.
Yep.
Tall and skinny.
I mean, it's interesting. Someone the other day was like, "What's your little brother Robert, the tall skinny guy, doing?" And I was like, "That's Robert." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, the big guy with the long hair and the Raiders? Yeah, that's the guy that you were asking about. That's what happened to him. They just didn't make the jump that he had grown up into this like mammoth. It's funny you say that because one time when I was at home, I was like, "You're really not that big." So I put my shoulders up against his, right? And like he had another 3 inches, and I was like, damn, that's impressive. He's got a tattoo that has this dragon or something that he has on his back, and the guy drew it out on a piece of paper, and it's like a 3x3. So yeah, church was crazy because everyone behind us was like, my sister's 6'4", mom's 6 foot, dad's 4. So like we sit halfway up in church, and I'm like, everybody in the back should probably sat down. We can't see where you guys were, which is funny. It's just shoulders are crossed.
Exactly. Big individuals.
Yes. And then you go to the reunions or the family stuff, and it's like all my uncles are like my size. So that's how we learned to play sports. You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to get my ass kicked by my uncle who's 6'4" and 260 playing hoops because he doesn't want to lose because he's super competitive.
That's where the toughness comes from.
Let's talk about, did you do the workouts and all that to try to play at the next level, or how did that kind of go?
I had a workout where I had some teams. I went and ran, did some drills for some teams, but never got an opportunity to get an invite to go into any training camps. And the only opportunity I had was a coach came in and offered me an opportunity to go play arena ball. And they told me what you're going to make, and you're going to $1,000 a game for whatever it was, 4 months. And I said, I got a degree. I think I might as well just go ahead and start working. I didn't really want it that much to chase it by playing arena ball. I didn't really see fullbacks and arena ball going together. So I was like, I think I'll just pass.
You're like, you would have had to play linebacker as well, probably too, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to let me play running back because I don't know if there's really a fullback in arena ball. They pass it most of the time. So I'm like, I didn't really feel like there'd be like a spot for me. So I was like, yeah, I'll just go ahead and start working. So it's time to say goodbye.
Hello, and welcome to our wonderful University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. This beautiful building, which opened to patients in the early months of 2017, has provided children with the ideal healing environment to match our world-class system of healthcare. We are Iowa's only comprehensive children's hospital, meaning we offer every pediatric subspecialty. We have the UI Stead Family Children's Hospital Press Box, a special viewing space with the city's best view of Kinnick Stadium. Many children and their families have caught a Hawkeye football game from this spot and taken part in the other side of Iowa's greatest tradition, the wave. The ultimate gesture of care and compassion. And the next time you're looking up at our windows, please give a wave.
Originally, you started in pharmaceuticals, correct?
I originally started in sales. I worked for a business forms and document management company called UARCO in Chicago. I did that for 2 years. And then I decided that I can't see myself doing this for another 40 or 50 years. So I had a buddy that I played high school football with who was in the sports industry. And so I reached out to him and just said, hey, how'd you get in the sports industry? And can you give me some tips on what I can do to start positioning myself? And he said, hey, it's really competitive. You typically have to start out as an intern. And so I did my research and homework, and that's what I did. I went down and volunteered at the Chicago Cubs convention, handing out schedules for the upcoming season, got noticed by the folks in the marketing department, the VP of marketing, the director of marketing, introduced myself to them, and they offered me an opportunity for an internship. So that's how I got my foot in the door in the sports industry. I was a mezzanine suite representative for the Chicago Cubs back in '96. And what that meant is I would sell skyboxes to home games, and then I would manage the skybox concourse at home games, just walking around in a suit, just welcoming people that had purchased skyboxes, making sure they had everything they needed from a food and beverages standpoint, and just introduce myself to these different companies that purchased the suites for that particular game. So I did that for '96, and then I transitioned from there to a corporate partnerships intern with the Minnesota Vikings. And at the time, the Minnesota Vikings had a bunch of Hawkeye connections. They had Denny Green, who was a former Hawk, Coach Hargrave, Coach Solomon, Erica Weiland was on the staff. Erica Janice, Eric Weiland, she was on the staff working with Coach Green. There was a couple other guys up in the front office that had also played for the Hawks. So
Yeah.
they gave me an opportunity to come in and be a corporate partnerships intern in that '96 season. So I did half of the season with the Cubs, and then I did the entire season with the Vikings. And after that role, I ended up getting my first job in the sports industry. I enjoyed that season with the Vikings. Warren Moon was the quarterback. Chris Carter was one of the receivers. Jake Reed, I believe Robert Smith may be on that team too. Corey Stringer, God rest his soul, was on that team. Corey Fuller. It was a lot of studs on that team. And I built a relationship with Warren and Chris Carter. And after my internship was over, they referred me to the agencies that they were represented by because they knew I wanted to get in the sports industry. And so I got interviews with those agencies, and I ended up getting hired by the agency that Warren was represented by called ISI, Integrated Sports International. It's no longer in existence. It got bought up. But that's when I got my first job in the sports industry. Worked there for 2 years and then completely switched gears and went pharmaceutical sales for 6 years. And that's when I got the opportunity to come over to Nike, and I've been here ever since for the last 21 years.
Sounds like the same journey that you went through for football, like a walk-on or intern,
Yeah, I was gonna
putting
say,
your time in.
he
man,
likes
that's
the hard,
awesome.
long roads, I think.
Exactly. I got to grind. I
Yeah,
gotta grind. We got to
that's
grind.
incredible. Yeah.
It's been a good journey. I'm enjoying what I do now.
Tell us through that Nike journey.
Yeah, so I came to Nike back in July of '04 is when I started, and I started out in sales. So I was basically a regional account manager or a regional account executive, whatever they called it, for a Jordan brand based in Atlanta, Georgia. And so basically my job was to sell Jordan brand footwear, apparel, and accessories to regional retail accounts in Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. So I did that for 2 years. Enjoyed the job. Grew up in Chicago for a period of time, right when they drafted Michael Jordan. I was there. And so I was a Bulls fan. I was a Jordan fan. So the opportunity to come into Nike working for the Jordan brand, I really believed in. I was a Jordan fan, so it's easy for me to sell Jordan brand. So did that for 2 years. And then I had the opportunity to transition over to sports marketing as a regional field manager for Nike football. And that's when I felt like I had got my dream job. Basically, I was basically the regional field manager for the West Coast for Nike football sports marketing. And essentially what that means is I had college, pro, and recruiting responsibilities. So I had 11 college programs that I was responsible for, working with the head coach, equipment manager, athletic director to outfit that school head to toe in Nike. So that's uniforms, sideline apparel, cleats, gloves, balls, etc. And Iowa was one of my accounts as well of those 11 schools. And then I had 5 NFL teams, and I was responsible. It was the Seahawks, Niners, Raiders, Chargers, and Cardinals. And I was responsible for signing individual players to deals to become Nike athletes and wear Nike cleats and gloves on the field. And then the last piece of my job was recruiting. So I was responsible for recruiting top college prospects to sign them to Nike when they declared or when their eligibility was up. Did that for 13 years. And then that led me to this role that I'm currently in as director of field sports for Jordan Brand Sports Marketing. So now I'm still in sports marketing, but instead of just focusing on football, it's field sports. And we define field sports as every sport that's not basketball. So right now, the way we're presently constructed, we are in football, baseball, golf, NASCAR. We have a professional BMX rider named Nigel Sylvester, a professional snowboarder named Zeb Powell, and then we have 11 college partners. So all that falls under the field sports umbrella, and I'm responsible for assembling that roster, managing a couple folks, managing budgets, negotiating deals, and just assembling a dynamic enough roster to help us grow the business. So that's what I do right now.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It is.
When you're thinking about your athletes, like what are you looking for them? I guess there's marketability and some of those other things, but what's your kind of thought process of how you're finding these people and what you're thinking about when you do this?
Yeah, that's a good question, Nick. So we look through these filters. We ask ourselves the following questions. Is this athlete dominant in whatever their profession is? Do they have a strong social media presence? Do they relate to the Gen Z consumer because that's our target consumer? Do they have some fashion sense both on and off the field or whatever their pitch or whatever their sport is? Are they good people? Do they embody a lot of the characteristics that MJ had? Could they potentially be pioneers? There's not many black snowboarders out there. So that's how we got interested in Zeb Powell, right? He's a young man, the first African American athlete to win a gold medal in the X Games. He's in a sport that's predominantly white and he's blazing his own trail. So he was very interesting in that sense. So we basically look through all those filters to ask ourselves, would this athlete be a good fit for the brand? And if they check a lot of those boxes, we then move to the next level of saying, okay, let's go out and introduce ourselves to them and start seeing if we can formulate a relationship. And then we go through the process of seeing if we can negotiate a deal. And if all that comes together, we end up signing them and making them an official Jordan Brand family member.
So
Yeah.
I guess the question to go a little deeper in the terms of like sports marketing, where do you see things going? I guess there's been a lot of change. Obviously, you spoke about the NIL and some of those things earlier. How are you thinking about the future going forward in that respect?
Look, we just still want to sign the athletes that are the best fit for the brand. Athletes are becoming brands a lot sooner now because of this NIL and space that we're in. But at the end of the day, you still got to get on the field or whatever your profession is, and you still got to be dominant and be really good. So we look at athletes that we feel like are dominant and are good people and are doing the right things. That's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. We're very selective at the Jordan brand about who we bring over to sign to the brand. So we have 14 NFL guys currently. We have 7 baseball players, but a very dynamic 7. We've got 4 or 5 golfers, 2 NASCAR drivers, 1 BMX rider, 1 snowboarder, and then the 11 college partners. So all that together, that's close to 25 to 30 athletes. That's it. And then basketball with WNBA and NBA, they probably have close to 30 plus athletes. So we're talking about with the entire Jordan brand roster, you're talking about maybe 60 to 70 athletes tops. So we're super selective. We do our homework and due diligence on anybody that we decide to bring on board because, again, they're representing MJ. And you know what MJ stood for: greatness, professionalism, championships, hard work, determination, being a good leader, being a fierce competitor. So we want anybody that we sign to embody a lot of those same characteristics.
And is he involved with the brand at all or much or not really?
Absolutely. I don't sign anybody without getting the green light from him. So I'll say, hey, listen, I'm interested in these particular football players, for example, and he'll say, okay, yes, no. So everybody that I literally sign has been approved, handpicked by MJ for sure.
And so you have a relationship with him then as well. That's cool. Interesting. Okay.
Correct. It's his brand at the end of the day, so I want to make sure that anything that we're doing, he's on board with. He's actually a fan. He's a fan of football for sure. Even though I manage multiple categories, football's still the sport that I'm most passionate about. And it's actually, you would think it'd be basketball for him, but he is a diehard football fan. Diehard football fan.
Wow. Surprised me.
And I'm sure it's gotten you into other sports that you probably weren't interested in and or paid attention to. You're talking about NASCAR and snowboarding and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And always looking to look at new sports too, whether it's soccer, whether we get into, or skateboarding, or we've got some other sports that we're looking at and exploring, entering into as well. But our list of football athletes, it's tight, but it's dynamic. It's Jalen Hurts, it's CJ Stroud, it's Max Crosby, Dak Prescott, Bryce Young. We've got Debo Samuel. We just signed Pat Surtain with the Broncos. We just signed Jahmyr Gibbs. We brought in one rookie this year, T-Mac, the receiver with the Panthers. We've got Puka Nacua. So we've got a nice dynamic list in baseball. We've got Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Manny Machado, William Contreras, Jazz Chisholm. So we got like 7 players, but they're all really dynamic players. So our job is to keep the roster young, dynamic, and fresh to keep driving the business forward.
You're also reminding me how old I am because I knew a Patrick Surtain at the Miami Dolphins when I was at camp there. And I was like, wait, I was like, he's an old man. And I was like, oh no, that's his son. Oh
yeah. Exactly. Pastor Surtain too, who was just recently Defensive Player of the Year last year. And we obviously have some old heads too. We got the Bobby Wagners and the Cam Jordans. We had Tyrann Mathieu, but he just decided to retire. So we've got a well-rounded roster. Basketball side, it's obviously Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, Paolo Banchero, and so on and so forth. So Bam Adebayo. So we got some dynamic basketball players as well.
How does the Michigan football, how did that fit in? Because that's where I first saw like the brand pop up again. And was that a unique situation, or are there other schools that kind of branded with the team? Or maybe it's Harbaugh.
We have 11 college partners at all 11 schools that are Jordan brand schools. We have the men's and women's basketball program. And at 6 of those 11 schools, we also have football. When we first got into college, some of these college partnerships were already established before I came into this role. But our strategy used to be, before all this realignment, our strategy was to try to have one school represented in each of the Power 5 conferences. That was like 6 years ago. That was our strategy. It's obviously shifted, but that's how we got North Carolina. We had Michigan, Oklahoma, Florida, and we didn't have a Pac-12 school, so we ended up getting UCLA. And then we ended up adding one HBCU, which is Howard University. So those are our 6 Jordan brand schools that have football, and they also have men's and women's basketball. And then outside of that, we've got Houston, San Diego State, Cincinnati, Georgetown, and Marquette. So those are the 11. All 11 have men's and women's basketball programs as Jordan programs. And again, like I said, those other 6 also have football as well. But with all the realignment, those are just the 11 that we basically have our relationships with right now.
Do you think there's a day when this goes into high school?
It's now. We have some high school kind of academies like Link Academy that are Jordan brand schools. We have a huge presence on the EYBL circuit. We've got an actual gentleman on our team that basically manages all grassroots. And then on the Nike side, Nike has 45 elite high school programs across the country. And those schools have a home and away Nike uniform, but they also have an alternate Jordan program uniform. So there's one of their uniforms, they get a Jumpman on it, and they get a chance to wear that whenever they want to wear that. So that's how we're diving into the high school space.
Not necessarily kids, more on the level or the program level then. Got it. Interesting.
Yeah, not individuals. As a matter of fact, we started playing in the NIL space a little bit. We just recently signed DJ Lagway, which we announced today. So DJ Lagway is the quarterback at University of Florida. He just became the first Jordan football player to be signed to an NIL deal from a Jordan Brand school because Florida is a Jordan Brand school. We had signed the Branch brothers a couple years ago, Zachariah and Zion Branch, who were at USC. We had signed them to the first NIL deal of football players, and then they ended up transferring where they're going to be playing at Georgia this year. So they started out at USC in Southern Cal. Now they're playing for the Bulldogs. So those are the only three NIL deals that we've done on the football side. We've done some in basketball. In women's basketball, we've done some. Nike's done some, but we haven't done a lot. I think Nike signed Shador and Shiloh when they were at Colorado to an NIL deal. But on the Jordan Brand side, it's just been those three that we've signed from a football perspective.
Talk about how you've been able to navigate through Nike and moved your way up. What are the same principles you've always instilled, or is there something else you've learned to help you grow in the organization?
For me, it's just been try to be great in every role that you're in. I haven't really gone into any role looking for a promotion. I've just gone in and just tried to be the best that I could be in that particular role and add value and try to do my job at a high level. And it's just been recognized to be fortunate enough to transition to do something else. Sports marketing is a function that I've been in now for the last 19 of my 21 years here. And it's a function that I love. I just feel like I'm a natural at what it takes to be successful in sports marketing. That's the ability to be able to build authentic relationships and to be able to communicate and to just be able to follow up and follow through on things that you need to get done and basically get things done when you need to get them done. So I feel like that's where I'll be for a while, unless another opportunity becomes available. I'm content with what I'm doing right now and I'm enjoying it. So I want to continue to see Jordan Brand grow. I'll be here until the next opportunity.
I think that's a great place to stop.
I'm looking forward to the season and the Hawkeye season as well. So go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
I really appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Cliff.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. All right. Thanks, guys.